Welcome in, everybody, to Heat Check, the show that gives you everything you need to get smart about the next few days of the NBA playoffs. Round 2 action in the East and West. Brendan Glasheen with Matt Moore and Chris Raybon of the Action Network. We have best bets for tonight's games. Got Heat Sixers, Mavs Suns. We'll also give you some thoughts on Tuesday's games, a best bet for those games coming up, and also some player props that we are on for tonight's games. That's all coming up on the show. As we tell you every Heat Check, everything that we discuss on this show, picks, data, all of it available in the award-winning Action Network app. Also, want to tease this too. We're going to have some thoughts on series prices because it's a way for you to monitor some longer-term bets as these playoffs take place. So we'll have thoughts from Matt and Chris on that as we go in the show. Let's get right into best bets for tonight. Monday best bets. We'll pick a spread or a total from tonight's games. Matt Moore, please take it away. You go first.
All right, let's go with the Mavs Suns under 215.5. There's 214.5 in the market, still like this. So 67% of the tickets are on the over, but 84% of the money, and that's updated now, it's still 75% of the money is on the under here. So there's obviously big money coming in on the under, and we've seen this line move in that direction as well. You got two switching defenses. These teams are both going to switch a fair amount. The Suns will play a little bit of drop. And in those situations, what that's going to do is that's going to keep Luka Doncic from passing the three-point shooters. You play drop for a couple of reasons, and one of them is you want to prevent stuff at the rim and you want to prevent threes. That's why it's so popular in the regular season. They're going to run that a little bit versus the Mavericks. They'll give Luka some step-back two-pointers, but that means less efficiency. Those are inherently less efficient shots. Meanwhile, the Suns, they just don't take a lot of threes. They just don't. They're one of the most highest percentage mid-range teams in the league. But they don't necessarily take a lot of threes. What they do is they don't let you take them either. Dallas is going to try and play 5 out, but Phoenix is smart enough to be able to recover down and get back out 2 shooters, so they'll be able to contest both at the rim and on the perimeter. I just don't necessarily. This is not the Jazz. The perimeter defense is way better, so you're not going to have to collapse. So you're going to be able to stay home on your guys. I think this is going to be much more of a slugfest. I think it's going to be much more of a grind. I'll take the under 214.5.
Okay. What do you think, Raybon? You think Matt Moore's onto something here in terms of the drop coverage? And I would tend to agree. I'll have thoughts on this game as well, but just the defense of the Utah Jazz, not quite like the Phoenix Suns when it comes to the Mavs, right?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, this is game 1. So I think you always kind of see teams start a little slow in these situations. I think they're kind of feeling each other out, but this is playoff basketball. This is round 2. As Matt mentioned, the Suns are a mid-range team as well. So, yeah, I like it.
Okay, let's go to you then, Chris. What do you got for a best bet for tonight?
So I'm going Heat minus 7.5 against the Sixers. And I really think that this Embiid absence changes the game plan for the Sixers and changes the matchup, because if Bam Adebayo, obviously one of the advantages of having him defensively is that you can switch everything with him. You can play a lot of different coverages. And, if you had Embiid there, you're not really going to do that because you have to kind of keep Bam, on Embiid, because if you look at the other defenders on Miami, you don't really want anybody else, guarding Joel Embiid. But with him out, now I think you go back to that defense, that more dynamic defense where you don't just have to play drop. You don't have to just leave Bam on one player, and it just opens everything up. And now if James Harden has to be the go-to guy for Philadelphia, well, look what Miami's defense did to Trae Young. I mean, he had more turnovers than field goals made in that, first series, in that first round. So, and he's obviously, not the player Trae Young even is at this point in his career, is James Harden. So I think that's going to, you're going to be able to shut down Harden. It's going to make it tougher for guys like Maxey, guys like Tobias Harris. You're still probably going to have 2 non-scorers in the lineup because you're going to have, whoever Embiid's replacement is. You're going to have Danny Green, who I think can hit some threes, but he's not a guy that you just kind of stay pasted to him on the 3-point line. So I just think it's a really tough matchup for Philly against Miami without Joel Embiid. And I always go back, when in doubt, trust Eric Spoelstra in these situations. He's one of the few coaches in any sport that has had success as a favorite and has had success against the spread as a favorite in the postseason. 61-33, 65% against the spread as a playoff favorite in his career. So going with the Heat.
Any concern with Lowry being out on the other side?
Nah, actually, Gabe Vincent, I mean, he stepped up and played decently well. I mean, obviously it's not ideal, but I just look at Embiid missing is bigger than Lowry being out there. He can, because I mean, the Heat can, remedy that. They have other guys that are going to play on the wing anyway. Tyler Hero can run the point if they need him to, and you don't even have to play Vincent. So they have a lot of ways to still score. They'll still be able to defend. He's not like a key defender. He's decent, but not a major concern in this spot.
Okay, very good. I tend to agree. Just wanted to double check that. I would agree with you. I mean, the perimeter defense of the Miami Heat against an Atlanta team that had some sharp shooters, and of course Trae Young, they did a fantastic job neutralizing him. A series that folks thought would go a lot longer than it did. Go ahead, Matt. What do you got?
I got a scheme adjustment here that backs up Raybon's point too.
Okay.
The Heat use zone defense the fourth most of any team in the league this season. The Sixers are the fourth worst team against zone defense this season, and that was with Embiid as a zone breaker. I think they're going to be able to absolutely just zone this team out of its mind. I think that's going to make up for any sort of issues that they'll have with Lowry out. I love this pick. I got -3.5 when it first came out before the Embiid injury, so I'm not going to play Heat -7.5 because I've got my money in on a better number. But I think if you're getting in now, there's been 10 sharp moves that were tracked in the app on Philadelphia. I think they're overthinking it. I like Miami in the spot.
Okay, very good. Matt made some good points about the drop defense, and the Suns being okay with not taking many threes. I'm going to take the Phoenix Suns. My best bet tonight: Phoenix Suns first half -3. The line has moved for the full game to 6. I like first half because I think the paint mismatch is something that the Suns plan on taking advantage of right away in this game. No more Jonas Valanciunas. Now it's a front court that is not as dominant, led by Powell and Kleba. I think this is a chance for DeAndre Ayton to have his fingerprints all over this series, and Chris Paul will make sure to get him the ball. Booker being back, of course, helps make this very much easier to buy in on as well. Look, the Utah Jazz did really well scoring in the paint against this Dallas Mavericks defense, and Jason Kidd fully admitted, DeAndre Ayton is a different beast than a Rudy Gobert or a Hassan Whiteside. So Kidd has acknowledged, hey, we're going to have a tougher challenge in terms of how we attack this team. So I think Jason Kidd is admitting this is going to be a challenging matchup for his guys, taking on Ayton and some of their other players, JaVale McGee as well when he gets his minutes. Utah scored almost 49 points in the paint. That's third best in the playoffs of all teams that have been in the postseason at this stage. I also feel like Dallas's defense was a tad overrated. Like you said, Matt, the Suns are not the Jazz. Utah just took a lot of really bad shots, I felt, from three. The final 2 games of the series, Utah from 3 for 30 and 9 for 35, just hucking it up there. A broken Utah team, I think, is what we all kind of found out. And now you're starting to see with the rumors coming out with what the Jazz future might be going forward. I think Phoenix is in, or Dallas is in, for a tougher matchup there. And the Suns have been good in the first half against the Pelicans and some larger point spreads because they are the Suns and they were supposed to dominate the series. And it turns out the Pelicans were better. But the Suns went 4-2 first half against the spread in the first round. I almost feel like they got a better team than Dallas did in terms of a team, the way they were trending going in. That 10-game under 500 mark for the Pelicans was a bit mistreated because, of course, they changed their team up when they got McCollum at the deadline. They played better basketball. Ingram played better basketball, a team that had nothing to lose. I like Phoenix here first half.
Yeah, I don't mind it because, I can't be in on the Suns the way that I am and then not be backing this. I will say 3 points on that first half line seems like a lot, just given the variance that you can run into in these kind of spots. Second quarter runs for Dallas have been good. The paint, I'm a little concerned just from the Suns always kind of have this paint mismatch and they very rarely use it. They just don't give Ayton the ball enough. They wind up being like, well, we could do that. We could take advantage of this great mismatch, or we could take a bunch of jump shots off the dribble. Yeah, so I get a little bit worried about the number. I'm sure that paying the juice on the money line would be a little bit steep, but I'd probably just pay the juice on the money line and go that route, just based off of how it looks. And if Dallas does hit a bunch of threes, you're in kind of concern there. I think over the course of the game, it's going to be good. But look, I think Monty Williams has kind of proven that he can put together the game plan. I don't have the same confidence in Jason Kidd. you got a softball because everybody figures out the Jazz. I think you're kind of right that coming off those first round series, we saw this a little bit with the games, I think on Sunday, that there's like these overreactions, I think, based off of these first round series. And kind of the overreaction is like, are the Suns really that good? And hey, maybe the Mavs are really good. And I think both of those series were a little off in terms of who these teams actually are, especially in this matchup. So I don't mind the first half, but I am a little bit concerned about the number.
Okay. What do you think, Raybon? I'll be honest. I saw I saw Dallas plus 5.5 and staring it in the face. Then I said, don't overreact. Don't overreact to one series. Don't overreact to one series.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I think of all the slates we've done in recent memory, I think this one is kind of the tightest in terms of finding value, especially on today's game. So there's not like a big margin either way, I think. But I do think, we saw this with like Jason Tatum in the first game one. We saw this with KD in game one of the last series. Like, I think when a team is capable of defending a superstar, it could take them some time to adjust. And I think that's what you're hoping for here, because Luka only played one game versus Phoenix this year. He shot, under 40% from the field, and he had 8 turnovers. So a lot of people want to quote his full game line. I think it was like 28, 8 and 8, but he also had 8 turnovers and he shot under 40%. So there might be an adjustment period here. And if Luka comes out slow, I mean, now you're really just talking about Brunson, maybe Dinwiddie, but they can defend him too. So I do think there might be an adjustment period rather than the Mavs just kind of picking up where they left off against the Utah Jazz.
Let's move on to the betting wheel. It's time to spin it. The wheel tonight has player props from tonight's 2-game NBA playoff schedule. Whatever player prop the arrow lands on, each of us will weigh in on whether or not the prop will go over or under. Matt Moore, as usual, will go first. Let's spin the wheel. Away we go. All right. Danny Green of the Philadelphia 76ers, 3-point prop set at 2.5. Raybon was kind of talking about this a bit in terms of what we might see from the Sixers offense without Joel Embiid. Think, Matt, is that too steep, or is Danny Green in for a good night here?
I'll take the over here, actually, even though I like the Heat in this matchup. Tyrese Maxey and James Harden, even with Embiid around, they average a combined 3.8 assists per 36 minutes to Green. So, try and imagine how this offense is going to look without Embiid. It's going to be a lot of Harden ISO ball. Maxey's going to get some off-ball looks. But what the Heat are probably going to do is they're going to pack the paint and make it more difficult, and they're going to give up threes. That's what they've done quite a bit. The Heat actually give up a ton of threes. That's the one part of their defense, much like the Bucks. That is one part of their defense that you can exploit. You shoot a low percentage because of their closeouts, but they'll give them up. Green's going to find those corner threes. A lot of this in the playoffs, I think, is about minutes. I think Danny Green's going to get a lot of minutes here because he's in what I would call the circle of trust, right? Like Doc Rivers has got guys that he believes in and trusts. And then there's B-ball Paul, who's definitely not, but he's probably going to get minutes anyway. Danny Green's in that circle of trust. That's a trusted veteran, championship player, yada, 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 veteran, knows he can trust him, low mistakes, etc. So Danny's going to get minutes. Green shoots 70% effective field goal percentage on those assist opportunities from Maxey and Harden. So he shoots extremely well in these kind of spots. You could say how much of that is because of the gravity of Embiid? Sure, 100%. But if you're the Miami Heat, and you're looking at it and you're going, okay, what are we going to try and take away? You're probably going to be like, look, if Danny Green hits 8 threes on us, we'll live with it. I think Danny Green's going to be able to get over 2.5 just based off of sheer volume attempts alone. If you're the Sixers, your best path to a win here is you're going to have to outscore them with the math game. You're going to have to hit threes to keep up with how Miami shoots. Miami gives up, like I said, the 4th most 3-point attempts per 100 possessions. So all that said, I'll take Danny Green over 2.5 3-pointers made. You're only having to lay minus 115 on it. I like the value on the over.
Yeah, I mean, without Embiid, it almost makes you feel like they're going to have to play like Atlanta did to steal a game in that series. And I think your point holds true. Your points hold true that is a similar path that the Sixers will have to take tonight. Okay, it's Raybon's turn. Let's spin the wheel for Chris Raybon.
Do it.
He'll pick an over or under based on where it lands on DeAndre Ayton, who we've talked about already so far on the show. Points, rebounds, assists at 31.5. Is this set just about right, Raybon? Taking an over or under?
I think it's set about right if you look at his normal averages, but in this matchup, I think you go over. Looking at Dallas, what do they really have in the paint? And Matt kind of alluded to this. They don't always feed the ball to Ayton like they should. But this is still Dallas. This is still him playing, 35 minutes per game in the postseason instead of his usual 30. And he averaged about 29, combined points, rebounds, assists in 29 and a half minutes during the regular season. And he is playing 35. So he should go over this, just based on his normal averages, forgetting the matchup. Mm-hmm. But, Kleba is what, 6'10". Dwight Powell's 6'10". These guys are not really going to be able to rebound over him and get like 25 rebounds the way Jonas Valanciunas was in that first round. So I think Ayton's rebounds will be up. And then you just kind of take your chance with the points and hoping they give him another extra couple of passes in the post or down low in this matchup. And you also hope that because there's no Valanciunas, he can get a couple of putbacks. And I mean, he already cleared this, went over 31 and a half in 4 out of the 6 first round playoff games, which is hard to believe considering, the numbers Valanciunas was putting up at times. So I think this is a slam dunk, actually. I think this is a great spot. I know some other people at Action Network have also bet the over on his points. But I like this kind of all encompassing one because I just think he's going to be a big centerpiece of what they're doing on offense in this game and on the glass, obviously.
Yeah, the points prop is set at 18.5. Matt Moore, you're shaking your head in agreement, kind of what you were talking about. I guess the only fear will be on the points front. Do the Suns go to them? Like, do they just take what's there for them?
Yeah, but I love how he's gone the points, rebounds, assist mark. This I like a lot. Way more than I think than the points, because look, Gobert averaged 13.3 rebounds per game in that first round series. He had some 15 and 17 rebound games versus this Dallas front line. Pace is an issue with all of these props in these series. I think that gets tough because Dallas plays at such a slow pace. They are really a grinded out squad. But look, if we just get Ayton to 11 boards, which is, 2 less than what Gobert averaged in the series. And he's not going to be played off the floor at any point. They're not going to have the same kind of troubles that Utah did where they had to go small more as the series went on. Like, that gets you to 20. You're talking about like 15-5 or 16-4. Ayton's going to have assist opportunities, I think, as well, because I think what's going to happen a lot is the Suns are going to be able to find dunker spot opportunities for him. And Ayton's actually surprisingly good about using those opportunities and then finding cutters. His passing is a little bit underrated. So 31.5 points, rebounds, assists. I like this a lot. The size mismatch here does matter. Raybon made all the points here. This checks out 31.5 over.
Okay, good stuff. All right, my turn. Let's spin the wheel. Here we go. Tyler Hero, 4.5 rebounds. So these numbers have all been adjusted because of the Embiid injury, right? I think Hero, as we all know, is the 6th man. So he comes in, he plays about 27, 28 minutes. I like an under here tonight for Hero, and I here's why. He'll be guarding the 3-point line. Matt hit on this with Danny Green being in the driver's seat to have a good shooting night. I think this puts more onus on Harden and Maxey to take outside shots. Tobias Harris. I feel Bam Adebayo will do his thing inside to manage the paint, just like PJ Tucker, also Jimmy Butler, Victor Oladipo kind of being a factor now with Lowry being out. It's taking away opportunities from Hero. So Hero, as long as he can guard the line, and he's hit the under, this 4.5 mark, this number, he's been under this number in 3 of the last 4 in that Hawks series. I just find the combo of Bam, Tucker, and Butler will manage the glass. His average in the playoffs in the 5 games against Atlanta, Tyler Hero, 3.8. I think it might just be a tad high. If this was at 3.5 or 4, I would probably not feel as great about it, but set at 4.5. I think Hero, maybe a chance for some long rebounds on missed threes. I understand that, but I find with the mismatch with no Embiid, the boards will be swallowed up by some of the bigger front court players of the Miami Heat.
So I got a few concerns here. I don't necessarily think it's a bad bet. I think, especially getting a plus number on it, I think it's probably got some EV there. Keep an eye on the Heat injury report. So Butler's got knee soreness that kept him out of that last game versus the Hawks. You want to make sure that he's playing. Max Strus has a hamstring strain, mild. He's expected to play, but keep an eye on it. You've got Gabe Vincent has, I think, an ankle that he's dealing with. You've got PJ Tucker has a calf strain that he's dealing with, and Kyle Lowry's out. So they're not going to update that injury report until right before the game. And so my concern here is like, man, if the Heat just don't get their guys where they want to go, then Hero could play a lot more minutes. But I think in your favor, Hero's coming off of a respiratory infection that's been going around the team. Keith Morris also has this. And so obviously, if you're coming off of having your lungs impacted, probably wind's not going to be there. Guess what takes a lot of winds? Getting the energy up to fight for those rebounds. So I think there's probably a little bit of value on it from that perspective. I am expecting this to be a pretty slow-paced game, which I think helps your case there too. I think Harden's going to absolutely just dribble the absolute life out of the ball until it is a lifeless husk. So I think you've probably got a chance based off of the pace there. The switching makes me a little concerned, right? Because Miami likes to switch a lot. They're a primary switch team, which means that he could wind up, against some of these bigs, but I also don't necessarily trust Hero to get the rebound over them. So I don't know anybody on Philadelphia that I'm like, oh wow, Hero's got a rebounding edge there, even if it's on longer balls. So overall, I think there's value on this, but make sure if you're going to bet this, wait until the injury report is released before the game.
Okay. I appreciate that. Thank you. And to your point, now this includes Embiid, but Sixers and Heat are bottom of the league in pace. So yes, expecting a slower game. It could be even Raybon. It could be an even slower game with no Embiid, because to Matt's point, James Harden's opportunity just to dribble the rock.
Yeah, I think, I think the main fear with Hero, because, in the playoffs, he hasn't needed to rebound. I think, like Matt said, the only fear is okay, maybe Vincent's a little banged up, and maybe, Hero just comes in early and he's just he's the closer. He closes the game at the point, and he comes in earlier than usual, and he gets 33 minutes at 34 instead of his normal 27. So this whole game, I would recommend, even for we talked about the picks earlier, wait to bet this Miami Philly game, because there could be some wonky things. Everyone's on the injury report for Miami. So if we get a surprise scratch, it kind of changes a lot of things. So that's a good point by Matt. Just make sure you kind of have all the information before you invest in this game in any way, shape, or form.
Okay, good deal. That's good stuff, guys. Of course, we always encourage that anytime there's an injury report. Maybe it's just Spoelstra being Spoelstra, and he's toying with all of us, right? Let's go to Wednesday's games. We do have a pair of games on Wednesday. We'll give out some best bets. That's the beauty of the playoffs. These lines come out early because it's the schedule's not too heavy, so it makes it more doable for bookmakers to get the lines out. So we've got Celtics Bucks game 2. Milwaukee won game 1 yesterday rather handedly, and then I thought Golden State was going to run away with it despite the Draymond ejection. They're up 9. Memphis fights back. Golden State does hold on, but they do not cover. Memphis covers despite the loss. So we've got those two matchups again tomorrow. Matt Moore, best bet for tomorrow night is what?
Well, first off, thanks for reminding me about that. The Warriors not covering. Thank you, Klay Thompson, for missing both free throws.
Ow. Why?
Ow.
Why did you remind me of this?
But I will go to the other game. I don't think Celtics minus 4.5. There's a 4 in the market. Money's coming in on the Bucks. Look, home teams in the semifinals since 2003 per Bet Labs as a favorite. So home favorites game 2 after you lose the first one. 14-5 against the spread, 73.7%. It's a pretty natural zigzag spot here. And I get zigzag's been, the books have obviously caught up on that to where the numbers are adjusted there. But I've got this with the Celtics at home. My numbers make this 4.9. I'm not going to get too shaken by game 1 in particular, because if you really look at it, Milwaukee deserves a ton of credit. They deserve so much credit. They played awesome. That was definitely we are the champs. You need to recognize how good we are. We are not the Nets. And that was honestly, that's the biggest takeaway is, once again, the Brooklyn Nets should just be embarrassed. But look, this Boston offense, I think, is going to have issues as the series goes on. I think that game, and it's reflected in the series line, the win probability for the series shifted massively. That was a cataclysmic event for the series line in terms of the win probability for the Celtics. You lose game 1 at home and things get rough. However, the recent history has suggested that's actually not the case. And most of the time, those teams tend to stabilize. Now, I'm swinging to where I like Milwaukee more and more here for the series, but this is about this game. And in this game, do I think Boston can not take 53s in the game? Yeah, they probably can. Can they do a better job of attacking inside versus pick and roll and have Tatum attack a little bit more versus the drop coverage of Brook Lopez? Yeah, they can. There's a lot of concerns here. Giannis didn't shoot great. But they've got really good defenders to force that. Grant Williams and Al Horford did a really good job versus Giannis yesterday, and Robert Williams. They did an awesome job. That wasn't Giannis missing makeable stuff. That was they pushed him out of his comfort spots. Giannis still dominated because he's a freaking monster, but Boston's offense, I think, will look better in game 2. They're going to play harder. This is obviously you lose this one, the series is over. Do I think the Celtics are going to lose the series in the first 2 games of it? No, I do not. So I think the Celtics are going to win. And because I'm getting them inside of 2 possessions, free throws gives me a comfort zone here. I'll take Celtics -4.5. It's at 4. Like that even better. I will take this all the way to 5. I like the Celtics to cover the spread in game 2.
One of your final thoughts was free throws giving you comfort, which, I thought you might go the other way on that because of what happened yesterday at the end of the game. I'm just teasing, and I'm really twisting the knife. So apologies. Yeah, I mean, Giannis 9 of 25 from the field. Celtics only made 10 field goals from 2, which is just wow. Just to say that out loud feels very weird. Okay, again, we're talking Tuesday's games. I said Wednesday. Today's Monday. Tomorrow's Tuesday. Raybon, you're on this game too. What do you got?
So I'm going with Celtics Bucks under 215. And, watching that first game, I think we saw a lot of things that, as Matt alluded to, kind of surprised us a little bit. And I'm looking like, all right, how do I didn't bet that game at all. I just had I didn't know what to expect. And I'm glad I didn't. But then I'm looking like, okay, how do we take advantage of this going forward? And I think the thing that stuck out to me the most was how the Celtics defended Giannis, because as Matt said, it wasn't just that he was missing shots and you're going to say, okay, the shot variance is going to flip back around and go the other way. Like this dude was 9 of 25. He had 3 more assists than field goals made. He had 5 turnovers. It just wasn't the same type of offense that we're used to seeing from the Bucks. And based on what I've seen in the first round, for the Celtics defensively, and just based on their personnel, having guys like Al Horford, having Williams, as a help side defender, rim protector, having Grant Williams being able to come off the bench and give you, 6 fouls. The fact that you didn't even have to use Tice, I think they used him like 4 minutes. So, if they need fouls, they have depth. I think they're going to be able to defend him well, especially without Middleton there to bail him out. So I really like the defense. And then on the other side, it's like Boston just has to hit more shots, but are they going to shoot 53s again? Is that how they're going to attack it? We knew they had to shoot threes, but they might not shoot 50. So it's like, even if Boston plays better offensively, it might be in a way that still kind of benefits the under, because Boston might just shoot better from 2 and shoot less threes. And at the same time, I just don't know how well Boston is going to actually improve offensively, because Milwaukee isn't Brooklyn. They're not allowing points at the rim. They're just not doing it. They're starting big. And that's another thing, that when you play unders, you bet on unders, you're looking for these bigs. You don't want, a bunch of 4 and 5, 3-guard lineups and super small lineups. Milwaukee's starting with Lopez, with Giannis, and Bobby Portis. I mean, that is just a huge front line. It's disrupting Boston. So I do think they will bounce back, but I think I'm more confident in just it being another rock fight because of just what's going on and kind of what we saw in game 1 and how the rotations are going to play out. So I'm taking the under here.
Yeah, I'm fascinated by how unders play out in this series based on how Milwaukee played. Like you said, if Boston could make more open shots, maybe it's a different game. Maybe the numbers in terms of the field goal percentages change. But you watch Milwaukee play defense yesterday, Matt, and you're like, why were you afraid of the Nets if you were going to come out and play like this? I mean, no Middleton, I understand that, but they would have been fine defensively in a series. They would have had Middleton, now that I think about it, if they played in the first round against the Nets.
Everyone kind of made a really big deal about that. We got to talk about that at some point. We'll talk about it on the Buckets podcast.
Okay.
I really don't think the Bucks ducked them the way everyone kind of talked about. I think the Celtics were just a lot more, we want to win, rah, rah, because that's very Celtics culture. And I think the Bucks were very much like, we don't care. We don't really care. That's very much their attitude, just don't care. Don't care who we face. Don't care who we play. To Raybon's point on this game, so the Celtics are absolutely going to shoot better. One thing that's notable, a bunch of us over at Action were on the team total under on the Bucks, which is actually now in game 1s. It is 1-9 in game 1s and the under is 9-1.
Wow.
In game 1s for
my 106.
106.5. So think about this. They got good shooting nights from Drew Holiday. They got good shooting nights from Pat Connaughton. They got good shooting nights from Bobby Portis. They had all of this, and they still went under their team total. So I think that gives you a little bit of leeway, even if the Celtics shoot better, because God knows they have to. They were 27% worse than expected on 2-pointers yesterday. 27 percentage points worse than expected in those spots. So I'll say I'm a little concerned in case, look, if this gets to, the Celtics put up 110, 111, you're in danger zone range, right? Especially because I like the Celtics to win this game. But I think the Bucks have a chance of getting under. I lean a little bit more towards maybe playing the Bucks team total under again in this spot. But game twos have been better. They tend to hit over more than not on the team total. But I think it's also usually a correction to them losing that first game because he's usually lost those first games. So all that said, I think there's value on the under. I kind of wonder if I'm going to be on Bucks team total, but I think there is value on the combined under too.
Team total for Boston, 109.5, and Bucks team total for game 2, 105.5. So it goes down a point based on what happened in game 1. I'm going to go to the other game. Not a side, not a total. I'm going to go to a prop, and it's probably one of the squarest plays out there. It's Ja Morant to hit over 26.5 points. Just going to keep this very simple. It looked like Golden State was very much okay with letting Ja do his thing. They focused on everyone else to make sure they didn't get beat from the outside. Jaren Jackson did that a little bit in the first half, making some threes. But Ja had his way in this game. He got to the free throw line, had space to work with. Now, I admit, and this is why I think there's an edge in game 2, the whistle was in his favor. Curry and Thompson both picked up quick fouls. So Golden State, Steve Kerr had to make adjustments to his rotations out of the gate. I also feel like, though, it's a little bit of Golden State just kind of being like, okay, we're fine. He's doing his thing, but we're right in this game. We're going to come back down. Wiggins is going to make a 3. Jordan Poole's going to make a couple threes. 13-point lead goes to 7, like that. They have a great third quarter. But just riding the train of Ja being really, really good at home in these playoffs. He's averaging 29.8 points per game in 4 home playoff games. I understand that the Golden State Warriors are a much better defensive team than the Minnesota Timberwolves, but Ja, and look, the splits for Ja this year at home versus road have been drastically different. He finds his way to get to the hole. He'll get those whistles at the end. Free throws will take him over his mark as well, I think, down the stretch, in another game in which Memphis will need everything from him to hopefully get a split and go to Golden State 1-1.
Don't mind it. I'm going to stay away from it. One of the concerns I have is the first half pace in that game was 107. They were absolutely flying up and down the floor, and it's kind of what I expected, which was that Golden State was going to be like, yeah, we're the Warriors. We play fast. Oh, no, you're better at it than us. No, that's one of the surprising things is Memphis actually plays better in chaos than Golden State. Second half, the pace dropped to 98. Big pace drop off, and that concerns me. Fast break points. First half, Memphis had 10. Second half, they only had 7. I think you're going to continue to see Golden State's big adjustment is going to be like, look, we can handle them in a half court. We got to slow this game down a little bit. I know that's weird for us, but we're going to have to slow this game down a little bit. Take away some of the transition stuff for Ja. He gets a lot more inefficient. You saw that in the second half. The points were fine, but overall, I think his efficiency kind of drops a little bit there, and that concerns me. But look, the same kind of deal with Boston. Is Memphis going down 0-2? I don't think so. It's possible, but I don't think so. I think they come out, play way harder, and Golden State goes, okay, we got the split. We'll take care of this at home. In that case, I think that there's probably a good chance. Can Memphis win this game without Ja having a massive game? Probably not. So I think 26.5 is a pretty soft line. I don't mind it. I'll probably look at the combined points and assist prop over, though, instead.
Okay. Yeah, I think the best thing, if you're betting the over on points that you saw in game 1, was that Ja was not shy about letting that 3 fly.
Yeah, 11 attempts, 11.
Right, and because you're going to need that. I mean, I thought Golden State did a really good job, actually, even with, not getting the whistles. I thought they did a decent job of defending him in terms of the 2-pointers, but he took 11 threes. He had no hesitation, just kind of stepping into those shots. And I think if he just makes 2 of those, I don't even think, he made 4 that accounted for 12 of his 34 points, so without any of them, he's at 22. But if he can make 2, now he's at 28 points and, assuming he kind of shoots the same way. So I think if he can just make a couple of those threes and keep shooting them at that rate, which it looks like he will. That's what Golden State wants to give him. I think you're there.
So I say favorable whistle, and what I meant by favorable whistle was the fact that 2 starting backcourt players got in foul trouble. But may I also add, what was not favorable was he only went to the line 3 times. In game
and that could obviously go up. But I mean, I thought part of that, that give Golden State credit for that, because I think, even with that whistle going the way it was and those guys getting in foul trouble, they were able to still contain him on the inside. So I think the long range shooting is key, but we've never seen him take like 11 threes in a game like this, at least in a meaningful game or in a long time. So if that's going to be the trend, and it looks like it might be, you always want to kind of hop on those things early. So maybe even look at his 3-point prop as well. I
got his game logs up, and we got one more thought, and we're going to wrap here. 38 for Morant against Boston in a 13-point loss. He took 12 threes, but he scored 38 points in the game. He made 4 of 12, but that's the last time he had a double-digit 3-point attempt game. Was way back when, at the beginning of March, 2 months ago. So yes, very drastic. And by the way, Matt, the number for points and assists is at 35.5 for Ja for game 2. So we'll see. Those things, of course, can change as we work our way into tomorrow night, Tuesday night's games. So just to recap, all of the bets for tonight and for tomorrow that we're on. Matt Moore is on the Mavs Suns under. He likes Danny Green over 2.5 threes against the Heat. Celtics on Tuesday, -4.5. Raybon likes the Heat tonight to cover -7.5. Ayton over 31.5 points, rebounds, and assists. The under on Bucks Celtics game 2. I'm on Suns first half tonight. Tyler Hero under 4.5 boards. John Morant to hit over his points prop. Before we go, want to get some series prices here. Some best series price value for the series that starts tonight. So Heat, Sixers, and Suns, Mavs. Matt Moore, you first.
Yeah, I'll take Heat -1.5. You can find this -132. That's a really good price for the Heat to win in 6 or less. Look, part of this reason I think this line has shifted a little bit is the report that Joel Embiid can return for games 3 and 4. I like this matchup better if Joel Embiid plays for the Heat. I think the Heat historically have shown a real ability. He shoots 17% over the last 3 seasons in effective field goal percentage versus Bam Adebayo. Like, the matchups are just not here. I think Jimmy Butler is going to lock down James Harden. I think the Heat offense is going to exploit a weak Sixers defense. I think that Raptors team was worse than people realize, given how they were able to stretch that out to 6. I think the Heat are going to take care of business here. Heat culture wins. Heat -1.5 at -132.
Raybon, best series price value that you're on?
I like the Suns -1.5 at -135. Listen, like, everyone's worried about the Suns. They don't just sweep the Pelicans. They take them to 6 or whatever. But you look at the Suns in that last year's playoff run. They did not, in the Western Conference playoffs, in the 3 series, nobody took them to 7 games. So I think the Suns can handle the Mavs in 6. This is not Utah. Suns are going to be healthier. So Suns -1.5 games at -135. Essentially the same prices as Matt's getting the Heat.
Excellent. Very good. For more NBA picks all week long, we encourage you to check us out over on the Buckets podcast. Matt Moore does a great job hosting that program with other action analysts. Anything to tease? Next episode, what you got coming up?
Yeah, we've got workshops every single day breaking down these games, giving you series bets, all that. You can catch it every single day in your podcast feed. It's Buckets wherever you get podcasts.
Excellent. And we have an NBA Bet Spaces coming your way tomorrow afternoon. We're starting at 2 p.m. Eastern time at NBA Bet on Twitter. We work in affiliation, Action Network, NBA Bet. So we'll have a Bet Spaces to get the latest. Maybe at that point, we'll have some updates on Marcus Smart of the Celtics and some other injury concerns. Maybe Draymond Green will have another whopping quote that we can use to get ready for game 2, Warriors and Grizzlies, Celtics, Bucks tomorrow. So look forward to that. Thank you all very much for tuning in to Heat Check. For Matt Moore, Chris Raybon, Brendan Glasheen, and our entire team here at the Action Network. Thanks for tuning in. Best of luck with your bets tonight, and we will catch you next time. We're going to be here quite a bit during these NBA playoffs. We'll see you.